has become ostensibly a gray state, and it's exactly what that shit is. It's a fucking it's a gray state. Um, and they've gone to martial law, and I think it's terrible because it's something that could happen, and if it does, I mean, what you expect some shit like that to happen and some motherfuckers save us? I don't see that happening. That's just my opinion.
Well, not like that, but it's just to spark the idea.
Oh yeah.
To give people hope. I mean, it's going to happen. Government's going to do whatever they're going to do. But, yeah. It's definitely kind of relevant that way.
And hey, for everyone over there...
That's always going to be relevant.
Hey, real quick, everyone over there on Facebook Live, sorry about that. Feed got interrupted for a moment, because it's a bitch. I swear, first my sound card and that guy... But we're back now. We're back now.
I especially like the scene where Evie transforms, Right. But then it was kind of crazy how it ended up being V that was torturing her.
I think, and they played it really well. I mean, they had a great piece to go off of.
Yeah, I'm sure if I read the comics, I could find some flaws in it. But I mean, it was real good screenplay, and
I like how you don't actually get.
It wasn't over the top. I mean, it wasn't over the top action. It was a lot. It was intellectual, shit you to think about.
Can I say, though, I swear this motherfucker's a political Deadpool.
Yeah.
Came out before Deadpool, if you want to get technical. But.
Oh, wait. So, for real? Like, year-wise, fucking Vendetta came out before Deadpool?
It might have came out around the same year. 88, 80, maybe 90. I don't know.
Wait, okay, see. Okay, hey, babe, can you do me a favor and check the year that V for Vendetta came out, the comic?
I really like how they don't show his face. I kind of like that concept. Like he's ideal.
Yeah.
I just feel like...
I don't know who he is. But you kind of hear his story, though. And then you hear how the government basically killed thousands of people.
My wife said 2005. I'm like,
that was a movie.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
No. I know the comic book. When did the comic come out? Hey, but you know what? That doesn't fucking matter. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back to that.
I give it 4 out of 5 stars, though. If we're going to give it a rating. 4 out of 5 nerds.
Really, dude? No.
Yeah.
No, if we're giving
I don't watch movies much. It's a decent movie. I watch it over and over.
That's 5 out of 5.
It's my rating. Don't worry about my rating.
Another person had to have a rating.
That's 5 out of 5. If I'm giving a rating, that's 5 out of 5.
I'm just saying. It wasn't the greatest movie ever, but it's a good movie.
Hey, yo, Jay.
Yo,
it's Reaper, bro.
Who?
It's Reaper, bro, from Evil Dogs, homie.
Oh, what's up, man? Hey, we're in the middle. Yeah, we're in the middle of Supah Nerd-tendo, bro.
Yeah, I seen that, man. What
are you doing?
What's going on, man?
Have you seen V for Vendetta?
No, I have not, actually. I heard it was a great movie, though.
V for Vendetta? Great movie.
Hey, Chopper says it's a great movie.
Right.
See?
It's actually really nice.
Y'all randomly called in and threw me off. I thought I was late, cutting to, because we got Matt Hansel coming up here in a moment, one of the current writers of Underdog. Yeah, y'all threw me off because I thought he was calling in and I was fucking...
Hey, you know what? That's what you get for having a call-in sign, you know what I'm saying?
Well, hey, fair enough, but you know what? Here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back, because I actually do need to cut to a motherfucking break, so we're going to do that. Facebook Live. We're going to go ahead and go live on fucking Facebook right now. And yeah, that's right. The dog stole my wife's pizza. Ain't that some shit? For real. But this is Supah Nerd-tendo. Shout out to Evil Dog Productions, man, calling in. Fucking throwing me off, making me think it was Matt, and I needed to cut to a break and shit real quick. My bad, though. You got fucking just checked out some shit from them. You're checking out Anti-Hero by myself, featuring Mr. DKB, as well as Tune, if you're over on No Fucks Given Radio. Speaking of which, we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Supah Nerd-tendo, episode 11. I am the unknown factor. You know I got Racer and DKB in the house with me. Gentlemen.
What up, what up?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. As I was saying, over on the fucking Facebook thingamabob we do, you know, fucking thrown off by Evil. Shout out to Evil Dog Productions. Thrown me off, though. Made me think the guest was calling. We needed to cut to a break. I was trying to cut to a break, and fucking, it's like, it's got a little awkward. Whatever. Shout out to Evil Dog Productions, though. Much love. I fucking expect to see y'all at Pirate Fest this year.
Shout out.
Motherfucking. But that's not the point, man. The point is, V for Vendetta is a dope-ass movie. Racer, how many stars real quick?
Give it 4.5.
4.5. So it's 4 from DKB, 4.5 from Racer. And I say 5, man, because that shit kept really close to the comic and was dope. But again, that's not the point. The point is, man, you know, we root for all kinds of motherfuckers. I don't care what dog you are. And if you fucking repping some Underdog shit, that's cool as hell. Matt Hansel, what's good?
Hello, how are you?
I'm excellent,
Hello?
sir. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
We can dig it.
Excellent. How are you guys all doing?
Man,
Can't
I
complain.
need to. You know what I've just come to the conclusion?
Trying to stay warm.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. It was at least in the positive territory here by me today.
Did you
a
get to
good
double
thing.
digits though?
I think it might have.
It's bad when that's your fucking goal for the weather is double digits.
Right.
Like that's all I want.
We're happy when it hits 0.
It's still very Hoth-like outside, though.
Right.
Holy shit! But Matt, you're here, Supah Nerd-tendo. We're gonna get into all kinds of shit, man. Fucking tell us a little bit about yourself, though, before we fucking start digging into your brain. Terrible. And I apologize for the questions that come.
That's no need to apologize. Well, I am a cartoonist. I have been for probably about almost 20 years now. Started off like a lot of people in college, doing a daily strip and editorial cartoons. It was during the Bill Clinton administration, so there was a lot of stuff to do editorial cartoons about. And then I kind of sidetracked myself and got a day job working for local government and whatnot for a couple years. And then in the last 2 or 3 years have gotten back into doing comics full time. And just had my first issue of Underdog came out today. So pretty exciting stuff.
Awesome.
Oh shit! That dropped today?
Yeah. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. It did. I went to the comic shop today and picked it up. Thanks a lot. It's kind of a surreal experience to pick up a book that since you were like 10 years old, you've wanted to work on, and there's your name in the credit box.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. Like, you had to be. Everybody was a fan of Underdog. You know what I mean?
Right.
In the story, like an old lost story that was from the 70s or something.
Yeah. I purchased at an auction probably 10 or 15 years ago, and 2 unpublished Underdog stories from the 1970 run at Western Golden Comics or whatever they were called. And the stories were still in kind of rough pencil form. And when I found out earlier last year that American Mythology was doing Underdog comics, I made it my life's mission to figure out how to get to work on the book. And I used up every favor I had to make connections at American Mythology, and finally got a hold of one of the editors and explained to him I really wanted to work on Underdog, and I had these 2 unpublished stories that were still in pencil form, and that maybe we could do something with them. And they loved the idea. They had to talk to the people at DreamWorks that kind of own Underdog now. They really liked the idea quite a bit. And then the Underdog 1975 special was born from that. And so I did the finished artwork and the coloring on it, and it came out today.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's an awesome story.
Hey, so
it's pretty cool. It's, a lot of people have different ways about how they got kind of their first pro job, and I didn't think my way in would be, I own this unpublished story from 40 years ago.
Right.
If you let me ink it and color it, I'll let you publish it.
Whatever works.
Yeah, right. And then as a result from, things kind of cascade from one thing to another, I also got the opportunity. I'm the inker on the regular Underdog title now. So my first issue is issue 3, which will come out, I think, in February, and I'm on board to ink issue 4 as well.
Cool.
So, man, going through all this and finally getting to the point where you got signed, and now you're working as an inker on a comic with a character that's, I'm pretty sure most people know who the fuck Underdog is. If you're over 30, I'm not. If you're under 30, it might get sketchy. I don't know.
Well, they even had a movie come out in 2007 with Jason Lee.
They did. And Boomerang reran Underdog for a lot of time. Yeah.
So I'll say if you're over 20, I'll say you should probably know who the fuck Underdog is. If you're over 30, I would definitely expect you to be fully aware of the fucking character. I guess it's just that under 20, but it's just like I said, it's because but now that it's blowing back up, why do you think it is that they're taking a character like that and bringing it back like that now? And what do you think? How do you think it is working on that as opposed to trying to work on something that is more of an original concept? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of interest now in things that are from what they now call mid-century America, like the 50s and 60s. And there's definitely a renewed interest in the cartoons of that era. DC Comics has had a lot of success revamping the Hanna-Barbera line. IDW's had success with, G.I. Joe and a variety of titles and things like that. So I think Underdog and the characters associated with Underdog, and then also with kind of a side or another related show with Rocky and Bullwinkle and things like that. I think there's a lot of now interest in doing that, and I think it started a couple years ago when they did the Sherman and Peabody movie. When DreamWorks did that, and then they turned it into a cartoon, which is actually magnificent on Netflix. And I think that's starting to garner up interest in these older properties.
Panther as well.
What's that?
Pink Panther American Anthology does those comics too, I believe.
Right. Yes, there's a lot of interest in the Pink Panther, and I might be doing some Pink Panther work in the not too distant future, and I hope I can. That's another one of my favorite cartoons. But I think there's just a lot of interest in those characters because I think they kind of represent what people think was a simpler time in America, maybe, or something like that. And they're not very complex characters. You can just kind of watch them and enjoy them. They represent kind of easy things that everyone can kind of go along with. They've got kind of universal humor and these universal characters in them, and I think that has a lot of appeal to folks today. I love working on that. And the second part of your question about working on a kind of a work for hire project versus maybe doing some original characters and things like that. I personally would love to work on some of my original characters. I have a whole series of comics and web comics with my two characters, Marty and Spud, that you can read at martyandspud.com. That I would love to turn into comic books, and I am talking to American Mythology about maybe doing that. I find a lot of fun working on both. It kind of exercises different parts of your artistic brain. Working on Underdog is wow, so I've been drawing this guy since I was 10 years old, and now finally someone is paying me to do it. And it's just surreal because you're working on like the official licensed Underdog. Like what we do with Underdog is what really will happen with Underdog. And there's a certain kind of thrill to doing that. And that's a different kind of thrill than using your own characters and telling your own stories, because that's a lot more personal. And you have a lot invested in that in a different way than you do in kind of licensed characters and things like that.
Yeah, okay. I get what you're saying. And yes,
and we've been hearing a lot about that, like familiarity with characters.
But yeah, Underdog had a fucking cartoon that ran in the like fucking forever. Yeah,
it did. It started in the '60s. It ran all the way through the '70s. It was on in the '80s, which is where I first saw it on Channel 32 in Chicago, the Fox affiliate, and. And then Cartoon Network ran it quite a bit early on when they didn't have a ton of other material to run. And then it ran all the time on Boomerang. I used to watch the reruns again there.
Yeah, it was like that.
It's had a long run.
A few others.
Well, yeah, right. Rocky and Bullwinkle's run just as long with all that stuff.
Word up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dig it.
Excuse me. I'm a fucking... See, I just, man, to work on a property like that, that would have to be crazy. I really... Like, and the fact that you burned up every favor you had.
Well,
I
didn't have a lot of favors to
fucking
call.
project. I don't care who. I'm gonna piss off this former friend of mine because they owe me this favor. I don't give a shit. They don't want to give it. They're gonna give it.
I was surprised by how easy it was to do that. Most people, I don't think, even thought they were doing me a favor.
Right.
All I mostly did was ask for people's email addresses or things like that. For much as I kind of loathe Facebook sometimes, it's moments like this when I think it's so awesome because I'm friends with so many cartoonists on Facebook, and I know many of them personally, but I'm able to very easily communicate with them, and so to be able to kind of rally your own set of troops to help you out is kind of cool and exciting. And I have to say, cartoonists are pretty cool people. They are always, or at least all of them that I know, are always willing to help out their friends and help someone work on a book that they want to work on, or get them some work if they need it, or things like that. It's been a really cool experience just on the kind of the human factor as well. And you're absolutely right. It's kind of surreal to work on these licensed characters. Sitting there, like I was saying before, whatever it is that we do with Underdog, that's what actually is going to happen to Underdog. And using Simon Barr's Sinister and Riff Raff and all those other characters, and telling those stories is just amazing.
Well, let me just ask you this. Someone in the comic book field, and this is, me and Racers have had discussions about this particular topic. What do you think as far as in continuity when you look at something like, DC or Marvel, specifically more than anything else, and so many times they have pretty much wiped their history away? Mm-hmm. What do you think of that, man? Just the fact that they would do that.
I'm of two minds about it, I guess. I lived through as a fan, and I should preface this with, I am a longtime DC Comics fan, mostly because when I was a kid, Julie Schwartz told me at a convention that if I started reading Marvel comic books, the DC police would come to my house and destroy all of my comics.
That's some bullshit.
So I remain to this day a very loyal DC Comics fan. And I've lived through, Crisis on Infinite Earths and 0 Hour and Infinite Crisis on whatever it was that they did, and, and whatever it is they're doing now, and the New 52 and all that kind of stuff. And on the one hand, it really isn't a lot different than what they did in the 60s, right? I mean, Julie Schwartz and Carmen Infantino and all those guys revamped, the Flash, and they created the Justice League, which is really a callback to the Justice Society. They update Superman, they update Batman, and, put the yellow oval around his, the bat on his chest and come into the new look and all that kind of stuff. And they did it, and they were pretty big events. And then they did it more subtly in the 70s, right? Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams kind of just start doing darker Batman stories by just making them happen at night instead of during the day. And, that was kind of a stealth reboot of the character, kind of calling him back to the 30s and 40s. And, now everything's a big promoted event and things like that. I think DC and Marvel and all the rest of them should really just kind of abandon the idea that there's this one single thread of continuity running through all of the books all of the time. They all the companies now have very distinct publishing eras. And I'm not talking about the Golden Age, Silver Age, and things like that, but there's a definite, John Byrne Fantastic Four era, and there's a Frank Miller Daredevil era, and there's, Brian Bendis Avengers era, and Frank Miller Batman, and all that kind of stuff. And what I think they should do is just publish stories that take place in those individual continuities that people seem to really like, and just publish stories. And if people like them and buy them, publish more of those kinds of stories and kind of go in that direction. That way you could appease all of the fans all of the time, and you'd probably put a lot of people to work producing stories that kind of have the flavor of the 80s and the flavor of the 90s and the flavor of the 50s. And things like that.
That's an interesting theory.
I think about this. I think about this stuff quite a bit. In terms of, do I get mad when DC and Marvel constantly reboot? The only reason I get mad is I always am afraid that they're losing readers when they do that, not gaining readers, because people feel that, well, they just rebooted this character, so now I have to do all this homework because I have to read all of the current stuff about this character because everything else I knew about the character isn't true anymore. And I think that sometimes might drive people away instead of bring people in.
Kind of where I'm at with it. I quit reading because I got tired of them changing everything.
Yeah, it's hard to follow the books now. I am a huge Batman fan, but I mostly follow creators these days. I don't follow Batman because it makes my head hurt too much, because I think I need a flow chart on the wall in my studio to keep track of who's doing what and where and when and how and all that kind of stuff.
They have so many Batman or Deadpool or anybody. They all have 7 titles now. If you want to read, you got to pay $50 a month just to keep up with that one particular character.
And they're all interconnected, so it's not like the old days. You could just read Batman and just read Detective, and you'd be fine. But now they reference each other and cross-reference each other, and it makes my head hurt to do all that kind of trying to remember.
Hobby nowadays when they're $5 a piece up sometimes,
Exactly, right. Exactly. It gets real expensive real fast.
Yeah, see, and like you said, they make it to where almost anything, with the two major companies, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that being Marvel and DC, almost any comic you pick up is gonna be fucking referenced in at least 2 other comics somewhere, if not fucking 20.
Or crossover or whatnot.
Yeah.
Alright.
And that shit's ridiculous, man. Like the way
Got the Underdog special coming out today.
Yeah, so
one shot.
So there you go, Matt. Let me ask you this.
It's done in one.
Well, let me ask you this though, Matt. What would you do if they were like, we want to do an Underdog crossover that was just, I don't even know, that was just fucking ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Way
like Underdog and Lobo or something.
I'll read them.
Oh, see, oh man, no, not I don't know, Rocky, Bullwinkle, and then motherfucking have the Flintstones in there, all the fucking the wacky racers, the wacky race guys. You know what I'm saying?
Bring them all in together.
Like all that shit, you know, all that shit from that era, and have it be like this huge. And we're just gonna reset that whole universe, right? Now here's the deal: when we reset that whole universe, when it comes back, it's R-rated, motherfuckers.
Well, that's kind of what DC did with all the Hanna-Barbera guys, isn't it? When they rebooted Scooby-Doo and Johnny Quest and what were the name of what were the cat and dog? Laugh and somebody, I can't remember. Howard Chaykin is writing it, but yeah, they're all really kind of modern, dark takes on the characters.
Wacky Racers is a lot not like the Wacky Racers I watched as a kid.
Oh, is it? I haven't read that.
No, it's it's not dark, but it's almost what the art like reminds me of a Vertigo title, just like a whole bunch of super villains. It's kind of crazy. I read the first 3 issues anyways. I quit reading after that, but it was kind of interesting.
Interesting.
I wouldn't expect a Vertigo vibe of any kind from a Wacky Racers comic.
Well, they did. Jim Lee was doing a zombie apocalypse kind of Scooby-Doo book.
Yeah, and that book is still being published. It's popular, from what I understand.
Yeah, I didn't really pick it up, but yeah, it looked interesting. I mean, Jim Lee, you can't go wrong with his art style. He's what I've always been a big fan.
I was digging the fucking afterlife of Archie and shit. So, who am I to say?
Yes, Archie comics to me has in the last 5 10 years or so has really taken a lot of interesting risks and challenges and things like that. And I don't know how financially successful or even if that matters, but it's creatively, it's been very interesting to watch them do.
Sure, they even got a TV show now on WB or something. Like I think.
Right. Well, and they did so many interesting things in the traditional Archie style, and now they've gone to kind of a more realistic art style in-house there. I think to kind of reflect the TV show, but it's been fascinating to watch. And Archie, I've long thought has had the right idea in terms of distribution, and things like that, where they can be impulse buys. People just buy them, and they're $3, whatever, and you get 60 pages of comics. I think they sell a lot of comics that way, and I think that's not a bad distribution model.
Yeah, I liked how they did like Archie versus Predator and Sharknado, and like they actually thought outside the box. Even the Punisher one back in the day, they even did that back in the day.
Right, they did the Punisher. They did Barack Obama and Sarah Palin.
I think they're doing Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. Yeah.
Right, they did Kiss. I think was Dan Parent drew the Kiss crossover. I think, which was kind of interesting.
Like Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy and Betty and Veronica's out like now, I believe. Like.
Are they really?
Yeah, that's like the newest one they've been doing, like Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy and Betty and Veronica, kind of crazy crossover.
Wow, there's so many books coming out; it's hard to keep track of.
Yeah, it is. There is.
You used to be able to go into like any grocery store though, and you'd see Archie comics, like a rack.
He still do. He still got some digests, the smaller ones.
Man, that's staple.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody else can really claim that as far as a comic that is just fucking, that has been at your local grocery store or fucking pharmacy, whatever, just on the fucking rack sitting there with all the other magazines. Yeah, I can't think of another comic that has near that kind of notoriety for that.
Oh yeah, everyone knows who they are. I mean, your grandparents read those comics, your parents read those comics. Your depending on how old you are, maybe your great grandparents read those comics.
So you can't prove darken up Underdog for us, man. When can we expect our hardcore, like the one that just rips the villain's head off, like, whoa, Underdog save the day, and flies away all bloody.
What was the question? Would I do that?
Yeah, I said no. I want you to do that. I'm asking when it's coming.
I don't know if DreamWorks would let us do that.
DreamWorks might not like that.
I think DreamWorks
never know.
Is like, well, fuck DreamWorks. I give shit.
They own the rights, so can't really.
Like, we don't want Underdog ripping people's heads off
Underdog
fuck is
in
wrong
my
with this
mind.
unknown factor guy?
Underdog is basically the the Silver Age kind of Kurt Swan Superman in terms of his temperament. Although if you watch the cartoon show, in the first season, the first probably half a dozen episodes, Underdog's kind of a jerk in certain instances, kind of dismissive of public safety and whatnot, which is kind of funny. He, like all good superheroes, clean his act up as he moves along, right? You know, Batman originally carried a gun and shot people. Superman threw a criminal in front of a hail of his own bullets one time.
Very nice.
You know, yeah, but the Golden Age versions all get cleaned up by the Silver Age. They're all clean cut and nice characters. But that's Underdog is kind of like the Silver Age Superman in that respect. Although I think it would be interesting to do a story where you kind of set the character off where something like that might happen. You could do interesting melodrama with that kind of stuff, I think. Especially with characters that have a strong moral code, like Superman, Underdog. You can tell interesting stories because you can really put those characters in a box and have to be creative in terms of how they get out of it.
Right.
Look, first off, fuck Superman, right? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
He hates DC. I don't know why he has to tell everybody that every episode.
No, I did not say fuck DC. I said fuck Superman. There are several
care. I know you. I'm gonna start dissing all the people you like.
I'm a fan of.
I mean, I'm not a big Superman fan myself, but I don't have to tell people fuck Superman. Let him be. Let him be, man.
I was gonna make a point with it, right?
Like I made this point with you before. Without Superman, there'd be no superheroes. So, man.
No. See, but look, I don't think that's look. All right, well then fuck it. I was gonna ask.
He's the original superhero, bro. I hate to break it to you.
I was gonna ask a different question, but since Racer brought up that point, Matt.
Well, I'd like to ask a question too. You keep. I got questions too. That's cool though.
Oh, well then ask a fucking question.
Okay, Matt. Let me ask you this question here. I got right
yes,
here.
Sir.
Since we don't have a lot of color, we've never really had a colorist on the show. Maybe you could tell people about what it's like to be a colorist and how it affects the comic, or maybe it's an unsung hero job, or is it difficult, or stuff like that?
Oh, I think it's a job that's changed a lot over the years. I think in the old days it was just kind of basic paint by number kind of stuff, and now when you see modern colorists, they're really adding a lot to the artwork. Interestingly enough, colorists in some instances are paid more than inkers now, which most definitely wasn't the case back in the day. All of the coloring I have done so far, I colored a Sherman and Peabody story that was in Rocky and Bullwinkle #1. I colored the Underdog special that came out today, and I colored a Rocky and Bullwinkle short story that I'm not sure when it's coming out. But all the coloring I've done so far has been kind of based on old-style comic book coloring, so it's flat colors, not a lot of gradients, things like that. And when you work on licensed books like Underdog and Rocky and Bullwinkle and whatnot, DreamWorks and the licensors have very specific instructions in terms of how the characters can be colored. You have to use specific versions of colors on those characters. So there's a specific red that you use when you color Underdog, a specific blue, a specific skin tone, and they provide all that stuff for you. And there's also a list of rules, like you can't do shading on the main characters. They don't want a lot of airbrush techniques. They don't want a lot of kind of cell animation look that's popular right now. So you do a lot of flat coloring, basically. They let you play around with the backgrounds a little bit, doing color holds. But it's on some of the licensed books, it's a fairly technical job. It's creative because you still have full range of colors you can pick and things like that. But it's interesting to work on it with those kinds of parameters. I'm going to be really curious when I start doing Marty and Spud again to kind of take the belt off and be able to do all of this stuff you can do in coloring, just kind of go crazy with it and see what techniques work and which ones don't.
Word.
It's a job that's changed a lot over the years, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah,
And I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, man, that's just crazy. I never thought about that. And hell yeah, Racer, damn good question. But I still want to ask my question because yeah, fuck Superman. I don't care. This is no fucking like what? I don't like that fucker. But the point you made, I gotta ask you a question, Matt. Do you think without Superman, like let's say Superman just didn't fucking happen, all right?
Okay.
You think superheroes just don't exist because of that?
That's a very interesting. It's a very interesting question. Superman set off a very specific chain reaction in the industry, because certainly without Superman, we would have never got Batman in the way that we got Batman. I'm not entirely convinced that had Siegel and Schuster not been successful in selling Superman, we might not have had costume characters, because if we believe what Bob Kane has always said, which was he created Batman when he was 14 or 15 or however old he was, and then took the character to DC Comics based on the success of Superman. Who knows whether Bob Kane would have gone to DC Comics anyway with Batman to try to sell him as an original feature or something like that. It's an interesting question whether we would have gotten superheroes or not without Superman.
It wouldn't have been popular, I feel.
Yeah, well, and the timing of when Superman happens and all of that kind of stuff, directly plays into the popularity of the character, and then all of the multitude of spin-offs, which is basically the whole comic book industry at the time.
Everybody tried to bite Superman. He was so popular.
Right, and many of those characters are still around today. Captain Marvel and Captain America and all those guys. But Batman and Wonder Woman and.
Haven't you heard of the Century? Marvel, like Stan Lee wrote that shit way before. I'm just kidding, ladies and gentlemen. They did actually do it. They did actually do a bit though, saying that was some fucking like hidden Stan Lee. Like nobody had seen it. Here's this character called the Century. It was like it predated Superman.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys remember
that? I remember Jones too.
Yeah, I remember when Marvel did that with Century. Yes.
I love how they tried to say that. Like, that was a ballsy ass move.
It was, because didn't they have John Romita do like fake old model sheets to kind of show that this was the original artist's designs and things like that.
I think so.
And I think they did a bunch of specials too that were like lost issues that they found in the file cabinets or something like that.
Yeah, I had a couple of them. Yeah. It was really fucking weird. Lando's Batman.
I wonder if they would get away with something like that today, and if it would make people excited, or if people would, just scream, fraud.
The Blue Marvel, he's basically like that too. He was supposed to be the original super soldier before Captain America, but I don't know. Like they've done that with Jessica Jones, where they created like a backstory with that, like when they created the character, like she's been here the whole time. Like I don't know, I don't think I've ever seen her. They basically said that with they did that with like Deadpool. They say Deadpool was there during Secret Wars, and he almost was supposed to get the original symbiote costume, and then they made the Back to Black or whatever. But supposedly he's in the Secret Wars, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't think so, but okay.
Well, no,
because Rob Liefeld was like 11 years old, right?
Yeah, well, no, and it was a whole thing. Like they said he was there, and I don't know how they I fucking actually was gonna try and fucking read these. I think I've actually found them where I can. And fucking he fucking something happened where nobody remembers and so I don't know. It was a real fucking stupid ass story. Because he had the symbiote in Secret Wars, and that's what explained the look of the symbiote even, and why the symbiote is psychotic. It's because of Deadpool.
Really?
That's a comic book writer though. They can always have like a conversation and be like, you just like read a random issue and like incorporating that into a backstory, or like when Reed Richards was talking to Neymar and some guy shook his hand. This is the guy, reveals it 100 issues later or something. Like what?
Yeah.
What are you talking
about? Well, that's why the symbiote is crazy though. That fucking Eddie Broadwell, that is Venom, is because it fucking had to encounter Deadpool before anybody else, and fucking Wade drove it nuts. So I mean, that's the story they're running with now apparently. And I agree. That goes back to the whole thing of Jesus. How many times can you reset a story? I don't know. That one kind of you can work into the fucking continuity of.
It just depends. If you're a good enough writer, you can do it. But I don't know why. It's just weird sometimes. Like, why change everything? Like Jeff Johns is good at with that. Jeff Johns recreated the Green Lanterns to where they were popular. I mean, before that, Green Lanterns was still popular, but it wasn't like it was. And like he spent like 2 years. The same thing with the Flash and whatever else he works on. Like he has like a giant plan and then makes it work. But it's just like sometimes you wonder why they revamp it.
Yeah, and Jeff has that ability to somehow weave all of the previous versions of those characters into the continuity where it sort of at least kind of makes sense.
Right. Like the Red
and that way,
yeah.
right, yeah, and just so that way he doesn't upset anyone, and it's interesting to watch.
That's who they need. That motherfucker needs to be the guy that heads up their goddamn fucking film division.
They got him and Bendis now in DC, so I wonder how they'll team them together or whatnot. It'd be interesting to see.
Jeff Johns, he needs to go work in their fucking movie department and try and fix it.
I think he does.
He runs he's one of the head DC people. I know for that. Like he does, he runs something.
He may just liaison with the movie people, but I know he's involved with them somehow. But I would say, based on his comic book stories, the movie people are not listening to him if he has some kind of sway over him. I think they should let Bruce Timm and Paul Dini take a crack at it.
I would like that. I would just think if they're going to make movies, they should have one comic book writer and like one script writer team up. Like they never have comic book writers write comic book movies, and I'm like, they know. I mean, that's my biggest beef is like they spend billions of dollars sometimes to get these property rights, and then they have like a mediocre writer write it or whatever. I'm like, man, you could have had someone that actually knows the material write the story.
I don't disagree with you.
That's how I feel. I mean, I like how they make my comics worth money, but I think some of the stories are just like it's about egos or whatnot, or I don't know. I still watch them, but sometimes I'm a little bitter towards it. I don't like when they change a lot of history.
A little. That's neither here nor there. Whatever. So, but hey, let's flip this back to Matt, man. So you've gotten to the point where you got to work on Underdog, and you said it's something you've always wanted to work on. I'm curious though. Like, if you could hand pick a project to work on, like just like you could fucking pick it out of thin air, Matt, whatever the fuck you wanted, what do you want to work on?
It would be a toss-up between doing my own creator-owned comics, specifically doing Marty and Spud, kind of on a full-time basis. That's on the creator-owned side. On the other side of that, I would really like to do a all-access, all-ages Batman book. Something kind of in the vein of Dick Sprang and Darwin Cook and those guys, to kind of make the character fun, but not, and I don't mean campy, but make him less grim maybe than he's been the last couple decades.
Show some of those.
Yeah, maybe more like Batman the Animated Series, or when they did the Batman Adventures in the 90s. I thought those were pretty good comic books. I would do something like that, but that I think would just kind of be a side project. What I really would like to do is just do Marty and Spud, and I've got a couple other ideas for projects that I can't talk about yet, that I would like to do. Those are kind of my dream projects.
Hell yeah! And look, that's dope. I love that your dad is look. I wanna own it because fuck the mainstream. Yeah, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is F the Mainstream. Yeah, by the Super Smash Bros. Featuring Mastermind. We'll be right back, y'all. Supah Nerd-tendo. Except for you Facebook people. You Facebook people should go listen to this track. It's dope. Stoplight City. Pick it up. But besides that, you just get silence. My bad, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back, at least on Facebook Live. Unless you're over on No Fucks Given Radio. Then you're hearing Paint It Red. Yeah, by JP the Hustler. Which is almost done. It's almost done. It's a long track. It's a dope track, though. Right? But I'm going to tell you more about that here in like half a second. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we're live. No Fucks Given Radio. I am the unknown factor, and it is Supah Nerd-tendo. So I got them Smash Bros in the house. Gentlemen.
Yo, what up?
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, hey, can I just say what you heard right quick was JP the Hustler. Yeah, painted black with insane poetry. Yeah, featuring Scum. I just got to say, tomorrow on the No Fucks Given Hour, you can catch JP with myself and Chuckles. And we going to box him this time. We didn't get him last time. This time we going to box him. But I heard fucking Racer, man, you got a question topic. And, like, I hope it's not box-oriented. But if it is, I'm down.
No, I was just going to ask Matt about Night Watchman and being able to get his back issue, or getting printed in the Savage Dragon book and stuff by Eric Larson.
Oh, Night Watchman, sure. Well, how far back do you want me to go?
As long as you want.
Well,
I used to get the strips on Facebook and read them.
Yeah, Chris Ecker, the penciler and co-creator of Night Watchman, a character from Big Bang Comics from the 90s, saw some of the Dick Sprang recreations I had done and asked me if I'd like to ink the Night Watchman daily strip that they were thinking of doing with Roger McKenzie of Daredevil fame writing it. He was going to pencil it, I would ink it, and then the Night Watchman's other co-creator, Gary Carlson, was going to color and letter. And I said, yeah, sign me up. So we did, I think, 16 or 17 strips. And while we were doing them, Gary Carlson is very good friends with Eric Larson, the creator of the Savage Dragon, and he does stories for him and whatnot. And Eric loves the Big Bang characters. So he said, hey, why don't you guys publish the strips in Savage Dragon? So they reprinted a bunch of the strips, all of them, I think, in Savage Dragon, a bunch of the issues around the 200 mark. And then just recently, I think it was this past fall, AC Comics reprinted the whole story in their new Big Bang special that they've put out. So it was kind of cool. And what's interesting, Gary and Chris Ecker, the penciler, they have a history of publishing people before they were famous. They gave Rob Liefeld and Eric Larson their first jobs in comics. They've given a bunch of other guys, Chris Samney, who's doing Captain America right now for Marvel, and worked on Thor and Black Widow and Daredevil prior to that. He got his first job doing the Night Watchman for Big Bang. So it's kind of cool. Plus, some actual Golden Age comic book creators worked on the Big Bang characters as well. Marty Nodell, the creator of the Green Lantern, worked on a bunch of stories. Kurt Swan and Murphy Anderson did some work for him. Shelley Moldoff, one of the Golden Age Batman artists, did a bunch of work for him. So it's kind of cool to be associated with all those legendary figures, even though my role is very, very minor.
Right on. Yeah, me and DKB got to meet Martin Nodell one year. He's also the same guy that created Pillsbury Doughboy, which kind of a cool fact.
Did you get one of his prints that has the Golden Age Green Lantern fighting the Pillsbury Doughboy?
Oh, no, I didn't see that. I got a 0 hour, and he drew like a Green Lantern sketch on it. The one.
Oh, that's...
Yeah, I don't know. I think I got some kind of a card that had like the Green Lantern #1 or something autographed.
Oh, that's cool. I have one of the Big Bang comics that he did some interior pages for. I have a copy of that signed. And I have a sketch floating around somewhere, too, that he did for me.
Well,
Can I just say, though, man, you said recently they put out what you'd done in the back of that, they put out a collected edition. So I'm just curious, in that, when you're sitting down to read a comic personally, man, like, how do you want to read your comics? Do you want to, like, get that shit on a monthly or, like, weekly or bi-weekly basis or whatever? Or do you want to wait and be able to pick up a collected edition and just fucking read it?
I like to enjoy different stories in different ways. A lot of the really continuity-heavy stories are written in such a way these days that I think it makes sense to sit down and read them all at once, kind of binge read them.
Right.
So for stuff like that, I much prefer a graphic novel kind of format. For stories that are kind of told more in a soap opera style, where there's, they recap kind of the previous issue at the beginning, they move the story forward, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that kind of stuff. Those kind of stories I love reading on a monthly basis. I think Eric Larson does that pretty well on Savage Dragon, in terms of you don't have to read every single issue before. You can just kind of jump in and he explains things as you go along. Those kind of books I really like reading on a monthly basis, because that's kind of how I got into comics, reading monthly comic books.
Cliffhanger Media.
Right. And then there's other comics I follow and read every day, dozens of web comics, and I love that format as well. And people that can tell a serial story daily, like the old daily strip comic book or comic strip artists like Chester Gould and Dick Loker and Walt Kelly and all those guys. Those kinds of stories are really fun to read every day, because you get a little kernel of art and writing every single day that advances the story, and it's kind of a high point, or at least for me it is, of the day to read those stories. So for me, it really depends on the format of the story and the ability of the creative team as to whether or not they can do it daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. So different kinds of stories make me want to read them different kinds of ways.
Right on.
So then what are you currently picking up, man?
Currently, I am following various creators. Scotty Young can do no wrong in my eyes. I Hate Fairyland is one of the best comic books I've read in a long time. I
gave Factor the free comic book day version of that one.
Yes. The book reminds me of when I first read Alan Grant and Keith Griffin and Simon Bisley's Lobo in the 90s. It kind of reminds me of that, but in a much cartoonier fashion. And I really liked those comics back then. So I've been reading that. Anything Neil Adams does is always at the top of my list. He's working on Dead Man right now. So I always pick up whatever he's doing. Let's see, what else? I was just at the comic book store today.
1975. You gotta get that one.
Underdog, right? Underdog 1975, of course. Actually, I read almost all. I think I do read all of the books that American Mythology publishes, because they happen to publish a lot of stuff that I like. The classic cartoon
catalog. They have a lot of good stuff, like Hatchet, Victor Crowley, Stargate, Dracula, the land that time forgot, or they have a whole bunch of good properties.
Yeah, I really like kind of jungle and dinosaur comics for whatever reason, because they're kind of like comic book versions of B movies, I guess. And they're doing stuff like that, and I love horror comics, so I'm going to be really interested to read some of the Dracula stuff when it comes out. What else am I reading? I'm blanking, actually, in terms I always read Jim Ballant, Tarot Witch of the Black Rose every month when it comes out. I've followed that book from the beginning, and so I feel I'm married to it.
So I note, though, man, it seems, Matt, that you don't necessarily follow characters. You seem to more follow writers. Would that be correct?
Actually, these days I mostly follow artists. But yeah, no, I'm not loyal to characters anymore, mostly because the characters evolve, and on the one hand, I think characters do have to evolve in order to meet the expectations of modern audiences. That being said, I don't have to agree with the changes that they make. So a lot of characters who I really like, they aren't publishing versions of them that I find interesting, so I just don't read them anymore. It's a safer... But so it's a safer bet for me to just follow writers and artists who I really like and be happy doing that.
I've done that too, though. Like Adam Kerber used to be one of my favorite. He did Wolverine run and stuff, and I used to just follow him wherever he went. I'm like, I'm following him, because you're not going to be disappointed.
Yep. And actually, Adam is one of them who I follow. He's doing or is it his brother that's doing stuff at DC now? I can't remember.
I think Andy's doing DC. I mean, they've both done everything from I mean, their dad, you know.
One of them is working on a Spider-Man book right now, or had been working on a Spider-Man book. I think it was a Spider-Man book.
They're definitely up there on my top list of artists. I've always liked their styles. Both of them. They're both dope artists.
Family, for sure.
Jim Lee is another artist who I'll follow just about anywhere. And Jim Lee fascinates me because I understand his drawing style and I can deconstruct it, but I totally cannot mimic it. It eludes me, and as an artist, that's fascinating to me. And Jim Lee's art is brilliant in its kind of mathematical approach to construction of the figure and storytelling and things like that. It's a very formulaic approach to what he does. And I don't mean that in a bad way or a negative way at all.
Batman Hush, that's a great story. I mean, they're all great.
And actually, Hush was really the first Jim Lee book that hooked me because I'm a Batman fan. And I thought his Batman, especially in the first 3 or 4 issues when he drew Batman like this big hulking figure, had so much more in common with Dick Sprang than anyone would be willing to admit. But it really did. And even his Batman that he did with Frank Miller, the All-Star. Yeah. Even that has such strong echoes of Dick Sprang's Batman visually that it fascinates me, because I don't think a lot of other people necessarily would see that or even agree with me that it's there. But I totally see the Dick Sprang Batman, just a very modern, angular version of him. But I want to meet Jim one day because I want to ask him in private. Was Dick Sprang one of the ideas you were kind of going for in terms of how you constructed Batman when you were coming up with your version of the character?
Right. He's always been one of my favorite artists. Even when I have like one of his first works is the Santa Samurai or Samurai Santa. I forget what it's called. But.
Oh yeah, what was? Yeah, it is. I think it's Samurai Santa, maybe.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I want to read that now. But hey, I think you make an interesting point though, as far as you guys follow artists and writers more than anything else. And I think, and maybe, I don't know, I'm maybe wrong in what I'm about to say, but I think it, for some reason in the comic book industry, is one of the things you're more likely to follow a character as opposed to, say, a particular writer. And I mean, I'm referring to like books, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
No, and I don't mean any disrespect to comic books. I love comic books, so everybody fucking.
I mean, I'm kind of like that too. Like where I follow Batman, but like I'm an art guy. Like I see art I like, it draws me in.
I think there's a big chunk of the fan base that follows the characters, and they don't care who's working on the characters. The credits maybe are irrelevant. I think the people that really follow the creators more are folks that are either creators themselves or want to be creators, because you're interested to see what it is other people are doing with the medium. How are they telling stories? Right. What kind of angles are they using? What kind of coloring techniques are being applied? How are they breaking down stories visually, and how are they approaching page construction and things like that? To me, that's one of the most fascinating parts every month of reading Scotty Young and Neil Adams and Dave Gibbons and Greg Capello and Jim Lee and all those guys, is that they all have, their own kind of iambic pentameter in terms of how they tell stories and how they break down the beats of stories. And they all have a very distinct visual flow that they are known for. And it's interesting for me to watch that kind of go through the filter of their brain and apply that to the page design and storytelling techniques and things like that. And to me, that's comics' greatest strength, is that it's a flat 2D piece of paper, and yet we can every month, every week, come up with these brilliant ways of, making it look 3D and telling these interesting, compelling stories that people want to come back to every week, every month.
All right.
And now, I might get a little bit of hate for the next statement, but it's just an honest statement, guys, from me. So whatever. No one ever said I wasn't an asshole. For me, when it came to comics, man, it was like there were certain characters I followed. I'm not gonna lie. Like if it was a Deadpool comic, I was gonna pick it up. But at the same time, like I never followed artists. I always like there were writers that I followed. Like fucking, and I could sit here and I'm not gonna fucking sit here and list off because it'd fucking take a while. But
Yeah,
I mean, that's
you can go that way too.
Huh?
I mean, yeah, you can go that way too. There's great writers.
See, and
It's everybody's opinion.
Well, I always
Oh,
like
I
to
know.
know more about artists.
yeah, I'm just stating mine, bro.
So.
It's all good.
I like
I just-
artists and writers. I'll follow them all.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Yeah, you're on fucking everything. Fucking, but if the art wasn't good, fuck that. Like, there was a point where the art was too shitty, and so the art is always important.
With some of those big staples, though, I don't think it really matters with the art. I mean, if you're buying Batman, sometimes it didn't really matter. It was a Batman story. You're going to buy it regardless.
Hey, but you know what?
When I
fucking hate Superman. But god damn it, when Alex Ross and I don't remember who the fuck did with him, did that All-Star Superman. Who was that? It was Ross and
It was Ross wasn't on it. It was Quietly and
Grant Morrison. It was Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly did All-Star
Grant,
Superman.
well, what the fuck?
But Alex Ross and Paul Dini did a Superman graphic novel. Every year for 3 or 4 years, Paul Dini and Alex Ross did painted graphic novels at DC. They did a Superman book, a Batman book, a Wonder Woman book, Shazam, and I think Justice League maybe. And those were all very beautiful to look at books. They were
and that's he's one of those guys like Ross. First off, I don't fucking understand how he makes that look real like that. That's amazing.
he does.
Photo reference.
I mean, he does. He makes it look like a photo. Like I love.
No, he uses a lot of references. He'll have friends dress pose like the picture.
I know people. He's was here in Chicago, and I know people that have been models for him as Green Arrow and people like that.
He uses a lot of photo references in his paintings.
That'd be weird. Like, have your buddy call you up. Hey, dude, will you come up and dress like the Green Arrow and stand still for me?
We don't have to dress up. You just hold a bow like he would hold it or whatever. And maybe he does.
No, he makes costumes. He makes homemade costumes and puts people in them so he can get the folds of the costumes right and things like that.
Can I just say
he's basically the comic book version of Norman Rockwell. He has everyone dress up the way they're supposed to. He shoots them and then paints a background around them, and we're off to the races. And I just made it in 15 seconds. What takes him like 2 weeks to do. So I don't mean to make light of how he does it.
It takes forever. I couldn't imagine painting people.
Hell no!
Right.
He does. Don't. You're right. That's simplistic with Ross. I'm just kidding. If you ever fucking hear this, Ross, or listening,
So realistic.
Yeah, that's like mad respect for that, and the fact that he takes the time though, even to craft costumes, that just shows. Jesus, man.
He's one of those guys. He's like Matt. He just loves the material. Like he's a big Hanna-Barbera fan and stuff. Like he really loves drawing that stuff. That's what I like about Alex Ross. Besides he's art. He's a dope artist, but he actually really enjoys the stuff he does. Like those are like his childhood memories, and like he really likes Hanna-Barbera stuff. So or whatever. When he does covers or whatnot, he likes to draw what he likes to draw. He doesn't have to do things he doesn't have to like to do.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like almost from the beginning.
I mean, but when you can fucking paint like that, it gives, like, it just, yeah.
Yeah,
and
that dope to any of that.
Well, to be able to paint like that on a deadline is even more mind-blowing.
Oh, my God.
All right.
Yeah, I never.
He does a lot of covers, but he does books too. That's the crazy part. I mean, covers is one thing, but be able to draw 24 pages,
right? Which is can have anywhere between 1 and 9 miniature paintings on each page. I mean, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and fucking because he did all of Kingdom Come. If remember, that's where I think that's
He did
honestly where I
Marvel.
got my first real introduction to Alex Ross. I don't know what.
That was
Yeah,
mine
me
too.
too.
Yeah, Kingdom Come. Kingdom Come.
Yeah, I guess
Which-
so.
If no one's ever read it, it's a great story. And look, Racer, I said something positive about DC. Fuck off. I love you, bro.
You know what his first
I gotta-
work was? Terminator, which was crazy. His first comic
I
book
got
was a
a
Terminator book.
giant Batman Alex Ross book too, I believe.
Ooh.
It's one of the books, like the Shazam one, where he made like the oversized.
Yeah, they used to come out around Christmas time, if I remember correctly.
Those were always cool. I think I had the Justice League one around. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So, hey, man, we're sitting here fucking rambling on about Alex Ross. Got fucking Matt sitting here like, motherfuckers act like a goddamn interviewing Alex Ross. Alex Ross ain't in the fucking room. That's right, Alex Ross is in the room. But if you want to stop by, hit us up. That's besides the point. But I'll tell you what, man, let's flip this back,
Alex,
though,
it's
right
a lot
quick.
of fun. Call.
Yeah, let's flip this back, though, real quick. I want to know, man, what's your dream collab, right? Like, who in the industry do you fucking crave to work with?
Bill Adams. Already know this
Oh
answer.
man, I really would like to work with Neil, but it would scare the hell out of me. Because he's Neil Adams, right? And a lot of people, I've seen his pencils, and a lot of people, we'll talk about how tightly he pencils. His pencils are actually incredibly loose in terms of the inkers have a lot of decisions to make. So from a creative standpoint, it'd be very interesting to work with Neil in some fashion like that. I really, right now, would like to work with Jason Bone, who was Darwin Cook's inker for many years. And Jay has this fantastic cartoon style, and I would love to either have him ink some stuff that I do, or I would like to ink his pencils, actually. We have very complementary styles. And I'd love to do a book with him, some kind of a throwback 50s kind of sci-fi book. I think would be a lot of fun with him. He's really good at doing kind of pin-up model and beefcake kind of model 50s kind of stuff. And I think that would be a lot of fun to do some comics, westerns and sci-fi and maybe some mystery noir comics in that way. I'd really like to work with him. And I'd like to work with John Byrne. At some point, either as an inker or as a writer or penciler or something like that. I think he'd be a lot of fun to work with. He has such an immense knowledge of Marvel and DC and is so very creative in terms of thinking about situations for the characters and whatnot. I think it'd be an interesting experience.
He's one of my favorite Wolverine artists.
Yeah, absolutely. And he somehow is able to draw very definitive versions of every character that he works on. If he was still alive, I'd love to work with Jim Aparo for that same reason, because he did such fantastic work at DC Comics for so many years. It'd be really cool it would have been cool to work with him.
Right on.
I'd also like to work with Scotty Young too. I think that would be a hoot.
He seems pretty cool to do stuff with.
I'm glad, man. You can tell I didn't give him a fucking limit because he just keeps going.
Well, there's so many. I mean, Jim Mahfood. I admire his stuff, and I'd love to work with him on something. I think he's the Ralph Steadman of comics right now, and I love everything. I've been a fan of his since way before anyone knew who he was.
In that David Mack category, he's got his own style. Like anybody that has their own style, I always respect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it'd be fun to work with those guys.
Let me rephrase this question, Matt.
Oh, go ahead.
A little bit, right? Because he said, I want to know, what writer do you most want to pencil a story for?
Oh, that's very easy for me. Denny O'Neil.
Nice.
Whatever. I thought I had a hard question. Racer, you got a hard question? He was like, I got that, man. Boom, right off top. Because, and I don't mean to sound morbid, but Denny is not a spring chicken, and I'd really like to work on a story, and it doesn't even have to be a Batman or a Green Arrow or Green Lantern story. I just would like to work on
What about a
on
question story? I've got to meet him twice.
The question is one of my favorite. I've met Denny quite a bit, a few times, and we always talk about the question because I love the question, and that would be a lot of fun to work on a question story.
My question is, what's your favorite question comic?
Ooh, that's a good one. One of my favorite question stories was not done in the main title. Denny and Rick Burchett did I think it was an 8 or 12-page story for Showcase in like 1993 or 4, and it won all kinds of awards and things like that. But it's a really fun little 8-page question story. That's one of my favorite stories. And one of my other favorite stories is the question special that Denny did with Ed Barretto. It takes place on a riverboat, if I remember it correctly. And I thought that was a really interesting question story. But the first 5 issues of the book are how to write good comic books 101, I think. How to take a concept, deconstruct it, and then reconstruct it and make it do interesting things.
I like how when he writes a character, like Azrael, he did like the whole run. I like how he did those.
Yeah.
I like when they do whole runs. He even did like the Blackest Night question, the single one shot.
Right, exactly. He wrote all the annuals. They did a couple of short stories in various DC anthology books, and Denny wrote all of those. I'm with you there. I really enjoy it, and especially when the writer is the creator of the character. Or at least the co-creator of the character. That always, I think, adds a little more legitimacy to it.
Word.
But Denny is definitely number 1, and I'm not even sure who number 2 is anymore.
There's a lot. There's too many people you can name. You could go on for days naming people. Really.
You could, and every collaboration could be interesting. It just depends on the circumstances, the project, the characters.
I want to see Alan Moore do an Underdog story. It'd be interesting.
There we go. That would be good.
Hey, how about this, man? Let's ask a question. I want to know, right? What do you think of them stories where they do some collaborations and you get like fucking Superman versus the Hulk?
Oh, like the versus the classic Marvel team-ups and stuff? Yeah, I think those are fantastic. I actually have pitched, I can't say what it is, but I've pitched an Underdog team-up story to American mythology that I think could be a lot of fun to do. So I'm a big fan of those books. A few years ago, well, more than a few years ago, DC did a Hulk Superman that Roger Stern and Steve Rude did, and it's one of the best art jobs Steve Rude's ever turned in. It's fantastic.
Well,
I love all those team-up books. What was the name of the miniseries Marvel and DC did that Dan Jurgens and Peter David and all those
Marvel
guys?
Marvel versus DC, or DC versus Marvel, depending on
Marvel they didn't have a special name for it.
It was one or the other.
Well,
that was
half the issues that Marvel was the top name, like so it would be Marvel versus DC for 2 and 4, and then DC had like 1 through 3. Basically, they just switched who had the first name
who had
and
what
title.
I thought that was a really fun miniseries, and the Amalgam comics that came out of them were a lot of fun. I loved the Dark Claw, the Wolverine Batman thing.
Right. I like how the fans could vote who actually won.
Lobo the Duck was the best thing that came out of that.
Well, which one was that?
Lobo the Duck.
Yeah, Lobo.
Yes. Yes. I had forgotten about that, but yes, that was a very good book. I remember it.
Yeah.
It was cool too. It was interesting. Like it was Spider-Man and Superboy.
I say what I do. I say what I do, Matt, about the versus battle though, because we do a thing over here. We're the versus battle, man, and we done fucking done a whole goddamn round of this shit already, ladies and gentlemen. The first 10 episodes of this show, and Mr. Mixaplicklicks.
Mixaplick.
Did I say it right?
Close enough.
Pretty close. I'll give you credit for that one.
All right, I
know
was
who you're
close
talking
enough
about.
to saying that thing DKB said. Ah! All right. Fucking Yeah, I swear I hate that motherfucker's name, man. I hate it, right? He ended up winning it last time, man.
Yeah, how's anyone going to beat him?
Right?
Won-
He
Oh,
ended
really?
up winning it. See, the
won
wife
the whole
says,
tournament.
how's anybody going to beat him? So we did a little thing, drew some shit, and came up with what you see before you, ladies and gentlemen, on the live feed. That's only if you're on the live feed. If you're not on the live feed, it'll be up on No Fucks Given Radio, up on the Supah Nerd-tendo page. Babe, do that.
We got a new tournament.
Yeah, it'll be up on the page, though. You'll be able to see this graphic, ladies and gentlemen.
Up on Supah Nerd-tendo?
Yeah. But, so, everybody got thrown in. Should I just...
New tournament.
Huh?
New year, new tournament.
Yeah, damn right. New year, new tournament, man. Man, I ain't gonna run through this whole bracket. For y'all watching, you can motherfucking see it. But the match tonight is Mr. Mixapliklix. I don't give a fuck if I fucked it up. Versus Bizarro. And gentlemen, there's just this part of me.
versus Bizarro.
I feel like we should throw in Underdog. The wife says that's rude.
He can be in the next
I don't know why
tournament.
that's rude. I feel like he'd have a pretty good chance.
Well, as Underdog says, he is the hero that does not fail. So it might be interesting to see what Mr. Mixaplix and Bizarro do with Underdog. It also makes me wonder if there's a Bizarro Underdog out there somewhere.
Overcat.
Well, Overcat, yeah, but is there an actual backwards Underdog where maybe Underdog is the main character and he turns into Shoeshine Boy or something like that?
I think this battle between Mixaplick and Bizarro is kind of interesting too, because it's almost like the Superman one, but a little different,
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too.
But now,
It's an interesting matchup.
Isn't it Superman always tricks this motherfucker and that's how he wins, right?
Yeah, basically.
More or
Bizarro's
less,
a fucking idiot.
but everything's backwards, so all you
Bizarro's
gotta do
not
is say,
actually an idiot though. Bizarro's an idiot in his home planet. He's actually kind of witty when it comes to like fighting Superman and shit. Like he's not as dumb as you think he is.
all you have to do is say Mixaplick's name backwards,
He's just
where Bizarro
backwards.
does that is backwards
It's
to begin
not
with.
like he's just backwards. But
So it might pull out in his favor because he's a backwards person, anyways. It's
that's
just
what I'm saying.
interesting.
Like if you look at his powers, it's pretty incredible list. Blast power, duplication, energy absorption, super smell, unarmed combat, wind burst, superhuman strength, hearing, and endurance, supersonic speed, flight, healing factor, invulnerability, freeze, spotlight, X-ray, telescopic and microscopic vision, and heat and vacuum breath. That's a pretty impressive list.
That's interesting. He might be one of the only people that, we made a
He's got a
tournament.
healing factor too.
Man, I don't know, cause I'm like, and I just looked at his list of how, like, all right, look, I'll tell you what then, Matt, I'm gonna throw it to
He's
you.
he's vulnerable to blue kryptonite, and he's strengthened by green kryptonite. What if he has like some green kryptonite with him?
It's not really a fist battle with Mixaplick, though, but yeah, I feel you. He's definitely a badass. The question you gotta ask is can he trick Mixaplick? But yeah, we'll let Matt decide who he thinks would win in that fight.
Yeah, I want to hear what Matt thinks first. Matt, who you think, Mr. Mixaplick? I know I'm mispronouncing that. I don't give a shit anymore.
You don't have to say that. We know who it is. You don't have to say it every time. We get it.
Well, whatever. Y'all gave me so much shit for never saying it. No, fuck you. I'm gonna keep mispronouncing it now.
At least he's trying it this time.
No, I understand, but it's like nobody can pronounce it. We get it, or
Nobody in the world can pronounce that name.
You don't have to keep
Now
saying.
he don't want me to say it. Now he wants me to be like that.
No, I want you to say it. I just don't want you to have to put a disclaimer beside it every time you say it. I know I'm saying it wrong, but it's Mixaplick. I know it's Mixie. Whatever. We can call it Mr. Mixie. Like it's cool, bro. I'm just saying. You don't have to give me a disclaimer. I think I'm spelling it wrong. Like I know I'm spelling it wrong
Matt,
too.
Who do you think would win? Because I really hope this asshole dies, so I never have to say his name again.
I've been thinking about it while you guys are talking about it, and if Bizarro somehow starts saying Mitsoplex name backwards all the time, that might infuriate Mitsoplex to say, no, it's not, and then say it backwards, and then thus go back to the fifth dimension or wherever it is that he goes. But I'm not sure Bizarro's smart enough to actually do that. So I think Mitsoplex might outsmart him, but I also, Mitsoplex likes to play with people, right? He's kind of like Q on Star Trek The Next Generation. And so I think he would have a lot of fun toying with Bizarro, which might actually cause Bizarro to inadvertently get him to say his name backwards or something like that. And then Bizarro would prevail. So I think Mitsoplex probably is his ultimate own undoing. So I think Bizarro wins in this case. I really do.
I think I don't want any more votes. I think that's the right. All right. I'm just kidding. Yeah. DKB, what you think?
I mean, I think I kind of have to agree. I'm going Bizarro.
Racer?
I'm torn. I'm kind of torn.
I mean, that's a tough one, don't get me wrong. But, yeah. I can see
I'll go Mixie-Plick because I think Spectre will go Bizarro just to get rid of him.
You know what? Just for that, I'm going Mr. Mixer-Plick, and that means my wife
Well, then I'm
is...
voting for Bizarro, so I don't have to hear you fuck it up.
We got
so
our
Bizarro
champion
moves
dethroned in
forward
the
on
first
account that
round.
my wife don't want to hear me fuck up that dude's name no more.
Champion of the last
you better fuck up Bizarro.
I can say Bizarro.
He's been practicing every day after school.
Yeah, to say Bizarro, for real, dude, I don't know. It's just it's the Z that throws me off, man. I don't know what it is.
Kind of crazy.
So what do you think about the battle, though?
Our champion's already lost the first round.
Good. For real.
What do you think about the battle? I mean, in all realness.
I really think I think Matt probably has the truth of what the fuck
I
happened.
think that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good.
I think that's the one character that's like that could trick Mixie-Plick like Superman did. Is like the
and then like he's backwards. Everything's backwards, so that would just make perfect sense to get.
I don't know, man. I could have seen Joker taking him.
Well, they did have a chess match in Superman Batman.
Yeah, like I think that motherfucker would have had a problem with the next round. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, on the next episode of Supah Nerd-tendo, it's going to be the Joker versus the Leader, and that'll be interesting. So I think whoever comes out on top on that would have given that motherfucker an issue.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, we made it. Look, Matt, if you go look at this graphic later on, because like I said, it'll be up on the site on Supah Nerd-tendo, you're going to be like, Jesus Christ, what'd they do? Just want to pick a bunch of dudes who were ostensibly God?
It's an interesting bracket this time.
So
I look forward to
We was trying to give Mixie-Plick a decent run, though. Like it seemed like he was just running through people.
He had run through the whole weather bracket.
Yeah. Now he's already gone.
Come back. There's always next year.
No, he can't come back for fucking 4 more brackets. We gotta have 4 whole
You win the
brackets.
championship, you automatically get to come back. No, I'm just joking. Whatever.
No, when
we need to have like
when we've got 16 champions,
We'll have a
put
top
them all in
5
the bracket.
champion.
Yeah, we're getting
We'll have
fucking
him versus
sidetracked
Underdog.
again. Matt,
I'm an Underdog.
this is for real. I still say I think Underdog fucking would take Bizarro personally, but that's a different note altogether.
I think Underdog can take Bizarro. Absolutely.
I can see that too.
Because even if Bizarro beats him down, he'll just whip out one of his Underdog super energy vitamin pills, and the battle will be lost by Bizarro.
I'm changing my vote to Underdog.
You ever just think real quick, like super energy vitamin pills?
Mm-hmm.
What if Bizarro has the reverse of that? He pulls that out.
Well,
no. I just want to point out super energy vitamin pills.
Yeah, that the Underdog has a ring that he wears.
I know.
That when his
It's
powers.
been a long time since I remembered, Matt. Right? Because I remember watching the cartoon and him popping them pills.
Right. And interestingly enough, in the 90s, when they reran the cartoon, they edited those out because people were accusing Underdog of taking speed or drugs, and that would be the wrong message to send to children. And oh my goodness,
what he told me. No.
I mean, it kind of looks that way.
Well, I think they hedged their bets calling them energy or super energy vitamin pills. So
look.
We call that ecstasy where I'm from.
Got a ring, and
Red Bull.
they pop it open and pull a pill out and eat it. That was an illegal drug, motherfucker. That wasn't your fucking diabetic medicine.
What Bill Cosby does.
Well, wasn't the original Dr. Midnight, or no, Our Man, took some sort of a drug that gave him powers for 24 hours.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Or maybe it was only an hour. That's why he was called Our Man. I don't remember.
Well, the lesson here...
You got super strength for an hour or something.
Yeah. The lesson here, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be a superhero, do drugs.
Do vitamins.
Disclaimer, don't do drugs.
There you go. Although there are a number of characters that get powers.
Yeah. There's
From
quite
taking a pill.
few characters that get fucking powers from. I mean, fucking that's Captain America.
Yeah, what was in Popeye's doing?
Yeah. What the fuck was that spinach, man? That spinach was
Right.
hardcore.
Right.
I mean, I've had and ate spinach, and it didn't make me go like, no, bro. I was like, this shit is nasty.
And I used to eat it a lot as a kid, hoping it would do that.
They made a drug out of like absorption, man, and Marvel. Like they would made them into powder and sold them as like a enhancement drug, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like they had him turn into like a drug, and then like when he touched the drug, he like they like put him like sold him, I think.
Oh no.
Well then, that's interesting.
The dark side of the comics.
I mean, I knew they had characters that did drugs. I didn't know they had characters that they turned into drugs.
They also had like somebody was selling like almost like a generic mutant. Maybe that was the absorption man, but it was like it would give him like mutant powers for like an hour or something if he took it. I think Daredevil had to fight like a few people that were drugged up on that extra drug.
Well, the main thing I remember like that is Jackie Escato in the Darkness at one point was just making a drug with the Darkness and running a whole fucking drug cartel with a drug that he was producing. Which
yes, I remember those stories.
Dude, that's terrifying, man. Think of that. Here's a drug from an ancient demonic force
that we're gonna package and sell.
Still got a top 5. We want to do that.
Oh Jesus! Top 5. I want some of that drug. That's my number one.
What comic drug would you want top 5 next time?
What comic book drugs do you want? Would you most like to have? That'll be our next few months' top 5. That'd be some fun. Oh my god, dude, that could end up really fucked up. But yeah, top 5. That's right. You want to introduce that shit, Racer?
Yeah, this month we're gonna do top 5 action figure lines. Just your favorite toys growing up, basically, or even toys now, whatever you feel is your top 5. So I'll go first if you like. Number 1, I had He-Man, because He-Man's probably like my biggest toy growing up when I was a kid. That was my favorite cartoon. I had like most of the toys. Number 2, I'd pick G.I. Joe. Same thing. I had a lot of G.I. Joes. My first rap name was Dr. Mindbender, kind of like that kind of stuff. Number 3, I like the Secret Wars Marvel. Yeah, that was like the first comic that really wanted to like go outside the box and create a toy line. That's basically how the comic came about. Was they wanted to make a toy line for the comic specifically.
Yeah.
And then number 4, Transformers. I've always been a big Transformer fan. Number 5, I've always liked the Marvel Legends toys. They were like one of the first really detailed toys I collected when I was collecting toys. That's my top 5.
Hell yeah. Man, I dig that top 5. I'm gonna go ahead and fuck like I swear I didn't steal any of this shit, and this list was written prior to Racer fucking saying anything, ladies and gentlemen. All right?
It's true. We did not compare lists.
Yeah, because like, dude, like off the bat for me, man, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because I love that shit. All right. But other than that, man, I swear all our shit matches up in some capacity. I just said, look. Marvel, like the Toy Biz Marvel toys, like fucking all of them. I don't know, like you're trying to select sets out of that, man. I'm just like, Marvel.
I had a lot of them back. I had one from each series back in the day, like at least 1 or 2 from each series.
Oh, did you? I had a shitload, bro. That's why I just said from Toy Biz, because Toy Biz is the ones that did all that shit.
I don't like the new ones. Whoever their new company is, I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I don't hate them, but they're different. But yeah,
I don't know who's doing their toys nowadays. But then. I mean, G.I. Joe, because it's fucking G.I. Joe.
Oh, yeah.
And then Transformers, for the same fucking reason. It's a robot. Like, it's a car that turns into a robot. And,
True.
Like, look, we didn't have computers, motherfucker, when I had these toys. That shit was dope. Shut the fuck up. Like, I want everybody to think about that, too. Like, when these toys, when we had them back when we were talking about, like, the internet didn't exist. So
It was an awesome time.
yeah, and then fucking He-Man, dude, because He-Man's the shit. And then I just gotta say though, like those are all children's toys or toys I was into as a kid, obviously. Honorable mention, fucking Pops, because they're dope.
Pops are pretty popular nowadays.
Anything you can think of.
Yeah, and that's why I dig them too. Like you can get a little representation of pretty much anything you're into. And hopefully not have to spend but like $15 for it. You know, get anything from like any horror film, any kind of movie to comic books, sports, fucking anything. So yeah, and they look dope. You know.
Oh yeah.
DKB.
Alright, my top 5. I say number 5. I'm going to go. You remember Muscle? Those little guys.
Oh man.
Awesome.
Dude, those things are awesome. I don't know. I just remember, like, every time I got one, it was, like, so cool. 4, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, kind of can't go wrong with that. I mean, kind of just grew up just playing with those. 3, He-Man, the same way. I can't believe you didn't say my second one, Jay. Tractor. I can't believe you didn't say it. But, like, WWF, like, the wrestling guys, man.
Oh,
like, you just play with them all fucking day, dude. Just like destroying the rings and shit, destroying shit, and just. And then my number 1, of course, GI Joes. So, and then like, I mean, it's just a staple. But like, I also like to point out that like Todd McFarlane by himself has like some of the dopest toy lines ever.
Right.
But like, not growing up, I didn't play with them, but they're pretty to look at. That's for damn sure.
McFarlane made his money.
Creations, I think, have some of the best sculpts as far as just detail in them.
Yeah.
But that's different now. Matt, you want to name?
Yes, sir.
What's some top 5 toys you just loved as a kid, man?
Star Wars for sure. I'm a big Star Wars fan. And then it was Transformers. I was really into Transformers. G.I. Joe. And then I didn't really do a whole lot with toys until I became an adult again. But I have to say, we live in a wonderful action figure era right now. The detail on the sculpts is just absolutely amazing. But that DC Direct, almost any of the Batman figures they put out, I've picked up because they've been very fantastic. My new favorite toy line, so it goes into my top 5. They're not reissues, but the resculpts of Batman the Animated Series that DC Direct's been doing for the last couple of years they're phenomenal. They're just absolutely phenomenal. And we finally have action figures of Commissioner Gordon and Alfred and incidental things from the show that are pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
I hope they do that with Justice League. I think that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Can't go wrong
Well,
with
yeah, it's pretty safe to say that it's G.I. Joe is like a main staple on all of our lists there.
Right.
Hell yeah. And you know what's funny? Even my wife said G.I. Joe.
Yeah. But when you think of fucking action figures, that's the first thing
The originator.
Jump playing G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe.
The originator. The original big action figures. Or the original ones.
Yeah, like I remember my mom, pick up your G.I. Joe. That's not a G.I. Joe. Whatever.
We don't care. They're all G.I. Joe.
Oh yeah. I have, man. You made me feel bad though. I left out the WWF shit, man.
I can't. I'm not even a big wrestling fan, but I mean, like when I was a kid, I just remember playing with those.
Hell no, bro. Look, I can't lie. I would fucking like play with wrestling figures with Marvel figures. You know.
Yeah,
like
I mean, you used to play with those things with everything. You had the ring, you'd slam shit on. And...
Yeah. You have like Stone Cold Steve Austin fucking up Cyclops and shit. Yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah.
That's some true nerdiness for you. All right.
Cool thing about toys, as far as your imagination goes.
Yeah.
Matt, man, back when you were a kid and you played with toys.
Yeah, but nowadays you don't want to take them out of the box.
Right.
Hey, but no, wait, hold on. Matt, I want to know, back in the day when you were a kid and you played toys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you like one of them kids that like, you know, your micro machines were your micro machines, your G.I. Joes were your G.I. Joes and this, or were you like you didn't give a fuck and you let those universes cross?
No, I was a storyteller from very early on, so the universes were not allowed to cross over. And when I was playing, I would come up with elaborate storylines that I would come up with, and I would use our whole house. Like Cobra was upstairs and G.I. Joe was downstairs, or you know, my bedroom was the Death Star, and then the basement was Dagobah or somewhere like that. I was pretty elaborate, I have to say.
Right on.
But yeah, I didn't cross universes over things like that. Although all of my friends did, so.
Don't play with Matt. He won't cross Star Wars with He-Man.
No, we would all play together. We would, and then the arguments would start. Could Han Solo be He-Man and all that kind of stuff?
Like, I'm going home with my Star Wars figures. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Well, we invented, as kids, something known as the Harrison Ford rule, which was Harrison Ford could beat anybody because he would pull his Indiana Jones stunt from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Whoever walks up to him, he would just shoot him and move on.
All right.
You can dig it.
That's a solid logic, if you ask me.
We were 10, so it made sense to us.
Well, Luke
Kylo Ren can
walks
stop
up.
it.
Yeah, all like swings his lightsaber around, gets shot. I buy it.
Although, as we know, Star Wars did provide us with the exception of the Han Solo rule because, of course, he can't outgun Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back. But I don't think we would
have a nice meal with him. He had made a meal for him.
Well, this is true, right? Here, give me your gun and have dinner with us before we torture you, and then
we do it. The dark side.
Complimentary.
That's what this whole interview's been about, Matt. You didn't know?
I did not know that.
I didn't know it was serving any other purpose besides torturing you.
So does American Mythology have a website anybody can go to get the books, or just hit up local comic book stores, or?
You can hit up your local comic book store, and American Mythology does have a website that you can order comic books through. They have a pretty strong Facebook presence. They recently named Mike Wolfer their editor-in-chief, and so I think they're kind of getting together so they can start putting out more comics. I think things are going good, so I'm pretty excited to be working for them.
They definitely have a cool catalog after I started looking through it. Like, well, they got some good properties.
pretty nice.
Yeah, they do. And I like that it's a real comic book company. There's a variety of material. There's horror, there's kind of jungle and sword and sorcery and kids books and all ages books, and yeah, it's a good mix.
I just like to say personally, I can see a horror Underdog kind of like now.
Well, kind of like they did the Archie comics, right? The
Afterlife with Archie.
The Afterlife, right? Didn't they do zombie ones too? I think.
Well, they did like Sabrina the Teenage Witch is like the actual witch, and they did like Jughead where he's a zombie, The Hunger.
Oh, right. Yes, that's what it was. Yes. I think it'd be interesting if DreamWorks would let us do it to kind of do a one-off Underdog story like that. You know, what would happen?
It'd be cool. Like they also like Cartoon Network when they did IDW, they made a giant mega event with all their characters, like Dexter's Lab and Johnny Bravo, and that'd be cool if maybe American Mythology did that too with all theirs.
If they would, because DreamWorks controls all the properties that American Mythology does. I think it'd be really interesting to do Underdog crossing over with Rocky and Bullwinkle and Tennessee Tuxedo and Casper the Friendly Ghost and all those guys. It'd be a lot of fun.
Right.
I would demand to draw pages in that book for sure.
All right.
See, that's what I want to... Like, that's what I'm curious to see, too, is, like, them do something massive like that, especially with all the properties they've got. Man, I'll tell you, I mean, you said you'd like to work on your own solo project more, though, so I'm just curious, man. I got one last question I want to ask. Like, let's say somebody wanted to just buy your solo, or your fucking project. They don't want to make it independent anymore. Fucking Marvel wants it. Right?
Would I sell?
Yeah, how much is it going to take for you to give that property to them?
I would not willingly sell a property off like that. If I was at the end of my career and I was like George Lucas, then I might think about doing this. Take my $4 billion and run, and then bitch about it later. But if someone came to me right now and offered me, $1 million for Marty and Spud, or more realistically, $10,000 for Marty and Spud, I wouldn't do it. The characters have too much personal meaning to me to be able to do it. I'd be very happy to go into a joint venture or something like that, where the copyright would
control. You'd have that
right,
control.
exactly, right, and where the rights are mine, I'm just leasing them out or things like that. In those kinds of situations, I'd love to do it because there are lots of different venues. I think Marty and Spud would work quite well in, and not just comics. So under those conditions, I would do it. But in terms of just being outright sell it, I don't think I could do it.
So in other words, if Disney wants it, they got to send Walt's head after you?
Probably.
Either they'll just change it enough. They'll change it enough and call it their own. Change it up.
But see, and that's where I would worry, because I could totally see the Mouse or some other less ethical corporation doing something like that. Oh, they won't sell? Okay, fine. We're going to do this. Which is why I would try really hard to do a partnership thing or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, that's a huge risk you run by not taking their money.
Yeah, when they're that powerful, you can't really stop them.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Just ask Fox.
Right.
Ask
Right.
anybody. Eventually, they've always been throwing up the idea, like eventually Disney will buy DC too. You never know. I hope not.
Right.
I don't even want to. No. Racy, you got any more questions for Matt?
I think we covered about everything that I know of.
DKB?
No, I'm pretty good. I think we covered, yeah. Good.
Mr. Hansel, any final thoughts?
Everybody pick up the new Underdog book. That's all I got.
Everyone pick up the new Underdog, and more importantly, everyone read comics. Go to your local comic book store and read comic books. They're fantastic. Go online, read comic books, support comic book creators through Patreon and Kickstarter and all that kind of stuff. Comics are wonderful. We make $200 million movies every single week. So go read some comic books.
And
read Underdog, especially.
I love your final point, Matt. I do, because you're right. Because fucking comic books make fucking multi-million-dollar fucking movies like every other goddamn week anymore. That's right. So go out and support what the fuck it came from, ladies and gentlemen. Support the underground in all aspects. That's what we're about over here at No Fucks Given Radio. And you know, for real, if you want to get on that comic book shit, just realize it is a bunch of mad scientists in this motherfucker, and this is Mad Scientist by JP the Hustler, who you can catch tomorrow on the No Fucks Given Hour. Have a good night, y'all.
Get easy.
Yeah, and then if y'all over on Facebook, like, man, you know the drill. You want some dope fucking music? Go to nofucksgivenradio.com. Request some shit. Request my ass. Request something from the Smash Bros. Request something from some other host. Request something from some other motherfucker that ain't us. I don't know. But for this shit, we out. Deuces.